I bet a lot of us feel this as coaches. Like there's sometimes a resistance of like, oh, no, I'm coaching. Like I'm the one that's supposed to be sort of guiding. And I think there could be a little bit of like ego resistance of letting other people coach us and like see into what we have going on and see that we don't have it all figured out either. And yet I think any coach that doesn't see and feel the need to have their own coach or their own therapist or their own person behind them supporting them is kind of a hypocrite, if I'm being honest. Because like that's all they do is realize like my mentor, my coach says this, which I love. It's like there's 8 billion people on the planet and they all got problems. Like more of us would benefit from having more coaches in our life more of the time. So I think a coach really grows when they are able to humble themselves to getting support from other people who can give it to them as well.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to 7 and 8 figures without burning out. Before Purple Circle, I started and scaled several 7 and 8 figure career coaching businesses myself and consulted with 2 career coaching businesses that are now doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or just building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Career Coaching Secrets podcast. I'm your host, Rexhen, and today's guest is Tom Karrel, a coach, facilitator, and founder of Lost Art of Random Conversations and Groups for Men, where he's on a mission to help people put down their phones and rediscover the power of spontaneous, meaningful connection. Tom's work focuses on building confidence in communication, speaking, real dialogue between strangers, and helping people break through social barriers to create genuine human moments. Through his writing, speaking, and community building effort, Tom invites us to embrace curiosity, ask better questions, and connect more deeply, not just with others, but also with ourselves. I'm excited to explore how we can all revive this lost art in our everyday life. So let's get this started. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Thank you, Rexhen. Really happy to be here.
It's a pleasure for me to have you on. So I wanted to ask, this is all very interesting. And I'm a big fan of this, by the way, just like putting away your phone, getting back to where we were maybe like 2010 and earlier than that, before the smartphones were a thing. So I wanted to ask, what inspired you to start this and become a coach?
Ever since I was little, I've always loved connecting people, bringing people together. It was really instilled in me from my parents. My mom showed me that curiosity and learning new things about the world and exploring is paramount to life. And my dad reminded me that one conversation a day will change lives. And that's an important thing to band around. So pretty much all my experiences since childhood, I think, have been leading me to exploring and meeting new people. That's probably the most formative time that brought me into what I'm doing now was living in Uganda for most of my 20s. I lived in Uganda and East Africa for about 5 years doing community development work that was all about bringing people together across cultures. And I think without knowing it, the professional titles you might use for what I was doing was coaching, group facilitation, and being an experiential educator. And when I moved back to America 3 years ago, I started asking around to my networks what people do with these things. Here's the way I want to engage people. Here's the way I want to impact people. I want to bring them together through conversations. I want to help people build confidence. I want to help people improve their relationships, live healthier lives. Who in society in America does those sorts of things? And then I found coaching, and I started diving into what that means, how it's different from therapy, and what are the ways in which someone can work as a coach.
And we did talk about in the intro also for 2 different businesses. So Lost Art of Random Conversations and Groups for Men. How do these connect together, or what's the difference between?
Yeah. So I started my own coaching practice 3 years ago. It's just called Tom Karrel Coaching, just my name and coaching, and got a lot of support and mentorship from other coaches on how to build a solo coaching practice. And I did it full time for about 2 years and had a myriad of different challenges, was also quite successful from a financial impact standpoint, hit a lot of my standards. And yet I'm someone that loves to work in a team environment. I love collaborating. I like working with other people. And that became increasingly clear for me. Groups for Men came into my life officially late last year. This is an organization where myself and a team of 5 work to address loneliness and depression and a lot of other really significant pain points in the lives of men in America and around the world through a virtual online support and coaching community. I found groups for men initially because I've lost 3 of my dearest male friends to suicide. Male mental health has been front of my heart and mind for over a decade. And I've always known I want to work in that space. And finding and working with groups for men has been a really tangible professional way to do that and serve tons of men as a coach. Lost Art of Random Conversations came out of a personal passion project of moments with strangers, people I hadn't met yet, conversations that completely changed my life by a willingness to be uncomfortable, open, and ask thoughtful questions to people I didn't know. And I could give you a few different stories that really catalyzed that as a big project for me and a way of living. And over the last couple of years, I've had a couple colleagues who are helping me bring it to life until recently. So with that, I host live events where I invite strangers to come and talk to each other. And now we're doing training with businesses to help address disconnection, address burnout and loneliness amongst their employees in their businesses to actually improve the way that they function as a company, but also get it back to what you alluded to, Rexhen, which is a little less time on our phone, a little more time in the face-to-face, even and especially if that feels uncomfortable and anxiety-inducing.
What do you think happened, or what do you think caused this disconnection between people over time?
I'll start with Lost Art of Random Conversations. For example, the U.S. Surgeon General estimates that roughly 1 in 2 Americans experience some measure of significant loneliness, which can be comparable to having 15 cigarettes a day, for example. Like social isolation and loneliness are not just, ooh, that hurts. It's actually it's a very significant health concern over time. And it's not completely around the phones and the screens. And yet I think it is a significant factor. In the last 10, 20 years, another Surgeon General estimate, an essay has said that 46% of Americans roughly report sometimes or always feeling lonely, which is making the case for the need for more human-to-human interactions important. I do think, depending on who you talk to, this is a bigger issue than others. I think certain communities feel like, hey, we have an ingrained culture. We talk to each other all the time. It's not really a thing. It's just something we read about online. And I think for other people, it's a very real reality. So I'm speaking to some of the population here. I do think COVID had a massive impact on it. So the onset of COVID, which for understandable health reasons, essentially told us that the best thing we can do is to isolate from each other. It created a fissure in social connection and our I think, willingness and openness to talking to strangers and talking to new people. I think a lot of us can forget how impactful it can be to have a meaningful face-to-face conversation, like to actually feel someone's energy, feel someone's emotions, let there be a little bit of discomfort. I host these live events, Rexhen, in different parts of America, and people come, some very open and comfortable talking to strangers, some terrified of it. And at the end, every single time, people feel connected, they're energized, they're hopeful about the world. I mean, there's a way in which when we're willing to talk to each other more face-to-face, really listen to each other, like be interested in each other before trying to be interesting and spew why we're so good towards everyone, but actually get to know other people, things just really settle. And our world's been in a lot of tension and a lot of pain through a pandemic, and the political climate's very scary as well. So it's tightened us up. And I think a lot of us are going to the phone, going to social media for connection. Yet it's falling short of what we're actually seeking, which is more of that intimate relationship with someone.
I see. That's an interesting point of view. So right now, it's been about almost 3 years that you've started the Lost Art of Random Conversations. And throughout this time, what is something what do you find the most rewarding while you're in coaching journey? What do you find the most rewarding since you started this coaching business?
One, hosting these live events and experiences is absolutely number one for me. I've had a chance to do 33 live events over the last couple of years for Lost Art of Random Conversations across Colorado and California and different cities, and had over 300 to 400 people come to the events. And just the feeling of transformation that happens in those rooms for 2 hours is number one for me. To help people really fall back in love and feel what happens when an entire room of people are committed to listening to each other, being accountable for their own actions, being open, having fun, being playful. It's just it's the most incredible feeling to leave that room, just so hopeful about the future. And to know that I got to have a significant contribution to creating that, even that sense for people, was huge. I I think the other big one is the intimate small group work that I get to do with Groups for Men, which I do group coaching type work with LARC, as we call it, Lost Art of Random Conversations, or Groups for Men, where, for example, I was in a Zoom group this week with some of my men, and getting to talk to a man who's been self-isolating for the last year and a half by choice, out of fear of people out in the world essentially treating him the way that close people to him have. And even getting to help him create some accountability targets of how he's going to get out into the world, improve his health, start to talk to a stranger, like getting to see those transformations for people to go to complete stuckness, like hopelessness in their life, to starting to move up that emotional ladder, even into a little bit of curiosity that, hey, that there is a next step for me. Those are the most significant moments for me when I get to coach with people on a more intimate basis.
And we also talked about you working, well, obviously for the groups of men working with men. Is there, apart from working with men, is there a specific target in the other business that you're working with? And how does the transformation look like for them afterwards?
Yeah, great question. I'd be happy to kind of speak to both, if that's okay. You know, with Groups for Men, men who come into their community are typically, one, have just gone through a breakup or divorce. They're dealing with addiction, often porn addiction. They're having trouble in their finances. Like, a lot of men are hitting a low point in their life and they don't know where to turn. Because for a lot of guys, we're taught just figure it out and stuff it down and just make it happen. So it can often take a certain threshold of pain for guys to really say, I need support, I need community, I need a tribe of men or a tribe of people around me. Who we're really working with in Groups for Men is this archetype of the nice guy. This guy, a lot of the modern man who have been raised a lot to be really in tune with their emotions, and also exhibits a lot of people-pleasing tendencies. They're very averse to conflict, and it's starting to affect their lives in a big way. This nice guy kind of archetype of man is the guy we're working with a lot in our Groups for Men community. As far as LARC goes, the events are for a very large subset of people, but who we're starting to zero in on are businesses and leaders who are in middle to upper income thresholds. Those are actually a lot of the communities we're seeing that are experiencing more of this disconnection. People who really value community and connection and experiencing a lot of disconnection either in their personal life or workplace, and would like to see something different. Our avatar is also someone that is very uncomfortable in small talk and surface level conversation. Like, they go to a networking event and they are like, I don't know how to be, but they crave deeper conversations. Like, they feel comfortable in emotional vulnerability and getting to a deeper level with people. That's who we're really getting to with Lost Art of Random Conversations.
And going back to the transformation for them, how does this program work for each of these?
Yeah, great question, Rexhen. So for Groups for Men, we've got a pretty simple online community that guys can tap into. So our main product is our online groups. These work in a subscription style format. We're able to keep prices super low because of this model. So for $49 a month, you get access to all our online groups. This is 4 2-hour Zoom groups every single week for men from Monday through Thursday. And our distinguishing factor is every single group is led by a professional coach that has thousands of hours of experience coaching professionally with men in particular, both individually and groups. So we have our group threshold. We also have mastermind groups. So for guys who want to meet every other week with a specific group of men and get much more targeted coaching, we have our next level there. And then we also have one-on-one coaching offers for men who are like, I have the resources, time, energy, and I want to rocket fuel my life and get through this as fast as I can. We work with guys one-on-one with our 4 coaches. And the final piece is a relationship course for nice guys who are experiencing serious breakages in their relationship and facing breakup or divorce that want to do a self-study option. We also have a course for those guys there.
That is awesome. That is a very good set of offers that you got there. And when it comes to the mastermind, how many people are there at a certain time generally, or is not limited?
Good question. So our entry general groups vary. Usually there's a half dozen to a dozen guys that come in each group. The mastermind groups are different. We're looking for 5 to 6 men who are in our mastermind groups, and they are staying with that group of men, that same group of men, for at least 3 months together. And there's a specific coach that's working with them every other week, and there's more consistent accountability that's being tracked. So our mastermind group is usually 5 to 6 of the same men who are in every group. Our general groups, while we have similar guys who like to work with similar coaches each Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. The groups vary. So it's more of a fluid model where guys can come and go to any group that they want. We ask that they stay the whole duration. And those are more of the generalist groups for guys to come get support, come get tips in their financial mindset, to how to deal with this nice guy behavior tendencies in their life, to negative self-talk, to handling conflict in their relationships.
And so for me to understand the structure of it, because you mentioned that they also might get connected to a coach. So basically, you're not the only coach within the business right now. How is the team structure? How does that look like?
Yeah, for sure. So we have 3 co-directors, for example, 3 co-founders, 2 of my founding colleagues and I. And then we have 2 other employees. We've got a marketing manager right now who's also a trained coach and therapist as like a secondary position. And then we have 1 additional coach on hire. So there's 4 of us. Shout out to Troy, to Mackenzie, to Colby, and myself. We're 4 senior coaches. So each one of the 4 of us, we run a different day of the week, and we each have a group with a specific focus area. And then essentially for any of the men in the community, they can tap into any of us to work with us one-on-one if we have the time and capacity to do so at a higher level. So men have access to all 4 of us coaches at the group level. Then some of us run certain masterminds, and then anyone can apply to work with one of us one-on-one at a higher threshold.
Cool. That's amazing. I really like that you have been able to scale that to multiple coaches. A lot of the coaches that I have are doing all the coaching themselves. So that is kind of definitely hard to scale when you think about it.
Totally. And it puts a lot of pressure to, like, I get it, to the coaches out there who are building the entire ship while they're trying to do what they love and just be in a session with people. It's part of being an entrepreneur. Like, you've got to wear a lot of different hats, and it can also put a lot of stress on people when all they're doing is the administrative work to actually help them get to a coaching position. Like, behind the scenes with Groups for Men, we're really trying to create a viable place for male coaches who want to work with men specifically in this target area to create a viable profession doing so and get paid well to do that. We really want to flip the market on its head by creating the community and the space for that guys are coming to. There's an existing funnel and pipeline that guys can start to work with us in a community of men. So they're also not doing it alone, because especially with the male coaching work that we're doing, it's incredibly supportive to have the group accountability, different coaches working with different guys. We find that it provides a much higher level of impact.
Cool. And I want to talk about marketing as well. So since we are talking about the business, what marketing channel is working best for you right now, or where do people find you?
So it's funny, I'll admit, like, most of my adult life until basically 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago, I've been off social media. I have a very difficult relationship with social media just because of what I shared with Lost Art of Random Conversations and my thoughts of, does it do more harm than good? There's a lot of value to it. And the inevitable truth is a lot of businesses in the modern era, at least that are doing coaching work, interpersonal work, social media is a very helpful way to build authority and access. To be honest, at the core of both businesses, it's a lot of in-person connecting that has built some of the initial foundation. Lost Art of Random Conversations and Groups for Men has been personal connections that I've had and my colleagues have had that have created partnerships, initial client base. For Groups for Men right now, we're doing a lot of focus on Facebook. That's where we're endeavoring to build our biggest social media presence right now. We also have other pages on Instagram and LinkedIn that we'll tap into, but it's primarily Facebook where people are getting to us. We're doing some targeted ad campaigns for certain group tracks. And another big thing that's worked for us with Groups for Men is SEO work and developing organic traffic. So now we're up to about 70 people on the site a day organically, and with ads, like over 100 people that are looking at our site every day. Some arduous and intentional work with SEO has been a big channel to, like, build that initial momentum with Groups for Men. And with Lost Art of Random Conversations, admittedly at this point, we're kind of more in a research and experimentation for the next rollout of our flagship program. So right now we're doing a lot on social media. That one's much more Instagram and TikTok because we're going for also a younger client base as well as businesses. So it's just reaching a different audience. And with Groups for Men, it's a lot of Facebook and organic traffic at the moment.
So I really like that you have mixed organic and inorganic traffic in it. So you're able to retarget basically all of the ones that come from SEO or that come to the website even organically through TikTok or whatever. And yeah, just finding people where they are trying to connect, right? So they're going social media to connect, to find that connection. Sometimes they don't.
Yes. And I'm curious, Rexhen, can I ask you a quick question or bring up a point around marketing? You being a man out in the world right now with Groups for Men, we're brainstorming a lot of how to meet guys where they're at, because I give you some of these statistics. I could spend the entire podcast giving you stats that would scare you about the state of male mental health in the world today. And a lot of people check me when I bring up men's groups because they're like, hey, what about women? What about other groups? It's like, this is not I'm not saying anyone deserves less attention because of this. And the point being, a lot of challenges in our society these days are coming from men. Like, men are hurting and they don't know where to go. So point being, we are endeavoring to reach those men who really need the support now, and are nice guys out there who are in tune with their emotions but don't have this group of men that can keep them accountable. We're figuring out the marketing strategies, but also kind of going up against like a natural, I think, resistance for a lot of guys to talk about their feelings publicly, and to certainly get on a Zoom call and talk to people they don't know and open up about some things that they wouldn't even share with their partner. Guys who are in our community and been in our groups will tell you that the transformations they have changed their life, and it's stuff the stuff they can bring to our groups is stuff they wouldn't talk about anywhere else. And yet we're kind of in a new market. Like, there's men's work that's happening in a lot of areas, but we are really appealing to the guy out there that is not deep in personal development work necessarily. He hasn't been reading books and isn't spiritually connected with his meditation and yoga all the time. He just doesn't know how to fix what's happening because life doesn't shape up to what he thought it was going to be. And I guess my question for you, Rexhen, is like, how do you balance, like, okay, what works from a marketing standpoint, and also like how to meet people where they're at? Because we could do all the ad and social in the world, and we're also in a population of men that I think are nervous to reach out for help in and of itself. And that's the balance we're exploring, and frankly talking to lots of guys out in the world about what might work, what might invite men into something like this when they know deeper down that they might need it.
So in terms of marketing, I would say definitely asking the ones that have already taken the step, where did they naturally go before having you guys, because obviously they went somewhere. My guess is also there's a lot of communication with ChatGPT now that you could just like open up to, and you feel safer that way, because a lot of people don't want to have that again, the resistance you mentioned. Maybe they don't even want to like the post that they listen to because they don't want to see that other people saw that you like that. So I feel like that is mostly the fear of judgment there, for sure. And I feel like you already have a good setup, meaning running the ads and trying to target these people. But that resistance is going to be there until a certain point. I feel like maybe it just takes longer for a person to decide to take a step forward in your case, rather than just like seeing a normal ad that you're really interested in. That resistance is going to be there always. It's just like longer to break, I feel like, in your case. The other thing would be, if there's like ways you can even get to train. Obviously there's also this talk about, you talked about SEO, there's also AIO, or like SEO for ChatGPT, to get them to mention you or to recommend you whenever that's happening in ChatGPT. So I feel like that is also an area to look into, but definitely start where people were going to initially, that they got to you. So you just ask those people and then try to break it from there. I think you already are in a good path. So yeah. And
Definitely.
yeah, obviously these, before ChatGPT, it would be Google. Like SEO is still a big one, depending on like what keywords a certain person having those issues would be searching. I feel like already in a good path. So just like keep digging in, and the resistance it eventually is going to break, in my opinion.
It's fascinating how much the emergence of ChatGPT and AI is becoming a resource place for people. I mean, you mentioned this anonymity that comes from being able to have a relationship with something just on your screen is, I think, emotionally a lot safer than going somewhere face to face with humans for this kind of support. I'm fascinated to see how they can start to work in tandem with something that is such deeply human work, like like what we're doing with Groups for Men or Lost Art of Random Conversations.
I feel like it's not just on your space, because I've seen this be like some challenge with other coaches as well, because you can always train ChatGPT to be your coach for any type of issue. Obviously, you lose that human connection. Is not the same as the conversation we're having now. Like ChatGPT will just read what you're telling it. It's not going to read behind the lines or anything like that. It's not going to read your body language. It's not going to understand what's going on behind unless you tell it to. So there's always that advantage of human connection that you have through coaching. So yeah, I wanted to ask you, like, how does the future look like? What are your goals for like the next 1 to 3 years with this coaching business? Where is this going?
Great question. Great question. So with Groups for Men, the vision and where we're heading is to be the go-to place for the everyday man in America and around the world to go to for support and for community. We're building it in such a way that we're covering some of the key pain points and topics that the modern man experiences, anything from financial troubles and debt to divorce to addiction to porn, etc., you name it. So our intention is to become the go-to place and authority for the general man in the population to come for support and for community, and to create a different paradigm and standard for the man in modern America as well as this world. And what that will look like is a certain threshold within our community and our groups, and then doing a lot more course offerings and a lot more mastermind groups so that we can continue to do really high touch, deep work with all the men in our community. But we'll continue to hire more coaches and have a whole team of different men's coaches that are working under us and around us with different men, so that we maintain this really high standard for our coaches and how they coach with our men, and that we're maintaining that at scale. For Lost Art of Random Conversations, there's a number of things. I mean, in a few months, we'll have the book ready, and that's going to be one of our flagship pieces of how we're reaching a larger part of the population. And a big thing that we're going to be building is actually bringing Lost Art of Random Conversations into the corporate sector and working with businesses. So in 1 to 3 years, I see this working with businesses at a really high scale to reduce burnout, increase engagement, and actually create environments at their companies where employees look forward to coming to work, because it's legitimately a place where they feel supported, seen, heard, and acknowledged. Like they're actually getting their needs met at work, regardless of what they're even doing for work, because the people around them are interested and skilled in how to have candid conversations and real conversations with their employees. And additionally, we'll continue hosting events largely around America and the United States with different facilitators, and training more people to host our community gatherings at a larger scale. Those are a few pieces in the next year or two that you can expect from the two businesses, and have some fun doing it. Like, I think one thing I'd like to say to coaches and remind myself is, it takes consistent hard work to build these businesses, and yet it's very important to stay close to why we're in it in the first place. Because I think, like anyone, and certainly I can get caught in my like achievement spirals of just like, okay, next task. I got to do this. Here's the spreadsheet, chat. What do I do next week? Whatever it looks like. Continuously connecting with why do this in the first place? Like, why not just drop it and do something else that's simpler and more secure and more certain? Because there's a certain balance of risk and certainty that happens when we're building these businesses. So for us, it's continuing to come back to our why and enjoying the process of building it, and showing up with the consistent work that's needed to build viable businesses like this and serve the people that we serve.
I really like this, and I hope more of your audience is going to be listening to either this podcast or maybe future podcasts that you have, which, by the way, I feel like it's also a very good way to connect with your audience. So doing more of these podcasts, or maybe hosting your own podcast, would be another way to basically reach that audience. And what about investments? Has there been any investment that you've made into your business? You talked about investing in a team, obviously, but has there been other investments? Also, you mentioned SEO, but what have been some investments that you feel like actually made a very good impact in the business growing?
Yes, totally. Well, I guess what I'll start with is investments in myself and subsequently my businesses, like especially when I was running my own coaching practice, and now running two businesses that I'm very intimately involved with along colleagues. Investing in my own personal development and health is huge. So what that's looked like is anything from, I've been working with a one-on-one coach for 3 years now, and we meet every single week. And that's been I don't know how I could give you the sort of ROI and financial terms on that, but the ROI on that has been legitimately priceless of how much he has helped me overcome an incredible personal growth points and challenges, but also grow as an entrepreneur and as a coach, because I believe a lot of coaching work, when it's done right, is also very personal. There's a very thin veil of like how your personal life is doing will affect your coaching work, because you're working with people on a very human level, even if it is professional. So that has been probably the most priceless investment. I also worked with a coaching mentor group for about 18 months, and it was 5 of us in a group with 2 leads, and just getting weekly support both on the personal and professional of how to build a coaching business, a viable coaching business, was massive. You know, I think about other things that I've done, like from meditation retreats to different trainings that I've done for my own skill set and personal development. As far as business goes, the power of outsourcing is huge. And anything from using sites like Fiverr and Upwork, or tapping into my network for people that want to do contract work. Like right now with Lost Art of Random Conversations, I'm talking to social media people about content creation and helping me out. The money up front to do those things saves so much time and energy. And I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, there's a big resistance to spending money early on when you don't necessarily have it coming in. And yet, one, you're freeing up more space to actually do what you love and spend more time actually working on the essence of the business and the soul of it. And you're employing other people, like you're giving other people opportunities. So if you're finding yourself stuck and exhausted in the same cycle of doing one task over and over and it's draining you, it might be a really smart investment to outsource it. Find people around the world who actually want to work, and hire other people and create opportunities, because that's a big value add that businesses can create, that I think a lot of coaches and entrepreneurs think, oh, that'll be me in 3 years when I've got $1 million. It's like, no, you can do that now. And that's been maybe one of the most tangible and supportive investments. Is one of my mentors and colleagues says, hiring people just before it feels comfortable is actually a really good business practice. And I found that to be largely true, even if it's scary to start cutting some contractor paychecks maybe before you feel ready to do so.
The resistance that I've noticed when it comes to hiring for coaching or the coaching businesses, is a lot of coaches that are doing this solo have that fear of, like, when it comes to like hiring, or if they're doing just one-on-one coaching, when it comes to hiring another coach, there's that resistance of like, will this person be able to deliver the same as me? Not that they feel like they are the only ones who can do it. It's just that there's this resistance of like, will the people get the same results with this coach as they would have gotten with me? So that is one issue that I've noticed when it comes to investing in a team, especially when you're expanding in coaches.
Yes, definitely. And I think to those people, I would say, I would ask them, like, you know, let's expand it past 1 to 2 years. Like in 10, 20 years, what do you want this business to look like? Like, where would you like to see your knowledge and skill set as a coach go after this? Like, would you like to have that knowledge disseminated to other people? And if so, reverse engineer a little bit. Like, how does that happen? And I mean, I know for me, it's just how I'm wired. Maybe not all coaches are interested in mentorship, but I'm honored by the opportunity for other people who want to learn from the way in which I coach and the way in which I teach and talk. It makes me feel really good. And it's a great way to contribute. And it's also, as you alluded to, a very strategic way to build business. Like with Groups for Men, that's a big arm of our business that's going to be developed as we hire our next round of coaches, is a certain threshold for training. Like, you need to sit in a certain number of our groups as a participant, just as a guy in the room, before you actually lead a group. How do you do in uncomfortable situations? If a man needs to be called in and doesn't just need a cheerleader, but actually needs someone to call him in, call him on his shit. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to swear on this podcast, but actually like help guys transform and break through very challenging things that they're stuck in. So for us, it's a very specific threshold of training for our coaches. And yet that's a huge part of what we're building. So I think for those coaches, like, some people may not be so interested in it going anywhere after them. And I think for those that are, to your point, like, just start somewhere. Like, start letting people sit with you and even coach them and coach each other, and like just sit in that space with people so they can get used to you. And I think with anything, when you're hiring people, you probably experience this, Rexhen, like there's always a voice in our head that's like, oh, I want to just do this myself. I already know how to do it my way. So there's always an initial growth point of pain of like, oh, I've got to let this go. And they might mess it up the first few times, or they might not do it to my same standard, which is a part of the process. With coaching work, yes, there are standards, there's big trainings we can do. And A lot of it, I will be the first to say, is like very intuitive and improvisational in the moment. Like you look at someone, you read their body language, and you say things. And I think when it happens well, it's very organic. So I think that needs to come by people's own confidence to just be who they are. That's when coaching really works well. So it's giving people opportunities to sit with your clients, sit with you, and just get comfortable being in that seat that's being looked at as the coach in the room.
I like your point also about coaching each other, because that is also a big part. You can also get a lot of value from the coach that you think you're training to. You might also get training back. There's might be areas that you haven't seen, because obviously you're only focused on your business. You never see it from another person's perspective. So there's also feedback that you can get from another coach that you get on the team.
Yes. I think a lot of coaches might be kind of at first resistant to sort of taking advice or support or ideas from other coaches. Because I don't know, I'll be the first to say, I bet a lot of us feel this as coaches. Like there's sometimes a resistance of like, oh, no, I'm coaching. Like I'm the one that's supposed to be sort of guiding. And I think there could be a little bit of like ego resistance of letting other people coach us and like see into what we have going on and see that we don't have it all figured out either. And yet I think any coach that doesn't see and feel the need to have their own coach or their own therapist or their own person behind them supporting them is kind of a hypocrite, if I'm being honest. Because like that's all they do is realize, like my mentor, my coach says this, which I love, is like there's 8 billion people on the planet and they all got problems. Like more of us would benefit from having more coaches in our life more of the time. So I think a coach really grows when they are able to humble themselves to getting support from other people who can give it to them as well. And I think that's a unique thing that happens in coaching versus therapy, where because coaching is a lot more fluid in its standards and regulations, we can just coach each other. Like Rexhen, you and I could hop on a call and be like, hey, I could use some support with my business, like from your expertise, or you're saying like, hey, I'm struggling with communication in this relationship, and I could come in and kind of coach you there. So the flexibility of that, I think, can be underutilized sometime for a lot of coaches. And once we humble ourselves to getting support, it's a lot easier to get it from people and make a lot more progress.
And I feel like you have to believe in coaching. If you want others to believe in your coaching, you have to be accepting a coach for yourself as well, because you're getting others to want to believe for that. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I also want to touch a little bit on challenges while we have the time. What is a challenge that you're trying to solve for next?
With groups for men, I mean, I think internally is to like show ourselves in the world that a male focused coaching business can become a very medium to large scale business that hires and employs people full time. So like I think internally it's that side, but I think something we're really trying to solve for is that flipping this sort of growing story on its head, that like men are being left behind and aren't in touch with their emotions, like really bringing in this new era of the modern man that is honest, that is humble, and is also willing to be assertive and direct in his relationships with people. He's not an asshole, but he's not a pushover. A lot of guys I judge that I talk to in America and around the world are feeling like right now society is telling them to shut up and step up at the same time, and they don't know what to do. So the next thing we're trying to solve for is really start to see that at a larger scale, like see some of our guys that are sitting in GFM groups start to guide and mentor other men who are coming in our community and creating this higher standard for how men operate emotionally in their communities. For Lost Art of Random Conversations, a bigger one that's emerging, because we've really proved the viability for the general public, like the experiential and qualitative data and feedback from our 33 events is very hard to argue with in terms of what it's solving for in the transformation. We're really looking towards the corporate sector and working with businesses to hit on a few different pain points around loneliness of their employees, employee disengagement, burnout, some of these pieces, mental health. So I think the biggest thing we're solving for is like, how do companies actually, it's not even incentivize, just like create a culture in their businesses that make employees feel comfortable, welcomed, considered, acknowledged, and actually help them work better, like work smarter, not harder. So that's the next frontier and threshold we're stepping into as Lost Art of Random Conversations.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tom. And just to close it up, is there any final advice you'd like to give to other coaches who are looking to scale their impact, or maybe even men in general?
Yeah. One is kind of on a personal level. Anyone out there listening to this, I want you to think about someone in your life that you would love to receive a random text or phone call from, unprompted. And before the end of today, I want you to reach out to them first, because there are so many people out there, even close to us in our lives, who I think want to be checked on more often and don't, because our society is just really not built in that way. At least for a lot of people, it's inherently built in an isolated way. We've got to schedule time to actually see each other all the time. So reach out to that person you're thinking of, is number one. Number two, if you're a man out there and anything I said in this entire conversation resonated, or you're a woman or someone identifying from another gender, and you know a male identifying individual in your life that you think would resonate with any piece of this, or you're like, they might need that, please send them our way. Like, we believe in this so strongly that you can have your first 7 days free of groups on us just to see what it's like, so that you can shake off the cobwebs and address your questions before actually committing to paid work with us. Join our groups with Groups for Men. I promise you will not regret it, and you'll be blown away by how simple and effective this model is. Yeah, and I would also say just reach out, come find us, and send someone that you know that might need this our way to Groups for Men. And as far as Lost Art of Random Conversation goes, follow us along on social media. Look out for our next event and training, and come experience the magic. It's a really cool thing we're doing, and I think you'll enjoy it, and it might actually leave you wanting to talk to some more strangers in your community. And yeah, that's what I would like to say.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tom. And for anyone who wants to find you, they can go into your LinkedIn, Tom Karrel, or they can go into your website, tomkarrel.com. There's also a website, groupsformen.com. So they will be able to find everything. If they go into your LinkedIn profile, we'll also be putting them into the description of this podcast. So another website to find Tom is you can go also to randomconvo.com. Thank you so much for coming today, and you have a great day ahead.
Thanks, Rexhen. Great to meet you, brother. Thanks for the work you do, and I hope to see you again soon.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe to YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This conversation was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to 7 and 8 figures without burning out. To learn more about Purple Circle, our community, and how we can help you grow your business, visit joinpurplecircle.com.